Okay, this video is on solubility rules. It's really short. I've listed out on the left hand side the soluble salts, 1A elements, and any anion is soluble. So anytime that would mean like sodium chloride is a 1A element and it has the chloride. Sodium sulfate would be soluble completely, etc. That's what we mean by a salt, the positive and negative parts of them. And again, ammonia, all ammonia compounds, NH4S2 would be soluble. Nitrates, all chlorates and perchlorates are soluble. Acetates are soluble. There are a few exceptions to these, and I'll talk about them in a second, but in general, if you memorize these as always soluble, you'll be in pretty good shape. Chloride and bromide and iodide are soluble. Also, there are a few exceptions, and here they are. If chloride forms a salt with silver plus, if it forms a salt with mercury 2 plus 2 or lead plus 2, they are slightly soluble, or insoluble salts. So those are the exceptions only to the chloride, bromide, and iodide. Be aware that there may be a few exceptions in this group here, but they're far and few between. It's really not going to be a problem with us. Okay, so those are the soluble salts. Now all we have to do is list out the insoluble salts. So let me erase this a little bit. Okay, so the insoluble salts, now the reason I didn't list them out is soluble trumps insoluble. So I'm going to list carbonates are insoluble except for these rules over here. So if a carbonate combines with sodium, it will be soluble because of the first primary rule, the soluble salts. Okay, phosphates, all these will undergo this same rule. Phosphates are insoluble. Oxalates, C2O4 minus 2. Chromates, CrO4 minus 2. And sulfides are all insoluble salts. And so they form salts that are insoluble, but not with these cations over here. Okay, so these cations over here trump it. So this is the first rule that you need to remember, is the soluble salts. The insoluble come after that. And that's all there is to it. Okay, so for exams you're going to have lists of soluble salts, but I am telling you, it is really, really, really important that you recognize the soluble salts. These, that you know they're soluble, and exceptions. You can assume for the most part every other salt is insoluble if they fit the solubility's rules. Okay, so the soluble part is the most important part. That means a soluble salt, for review, means that something like sodium sulfate will dissolve 100% in water. An insoluble salt, for example, we'll use one of the exceptions, mercury 2 plus 2 and combined with bromide, that's in equilibrium. And so that gives me the ion mercury 2 plus 2 plus 2 bromides. So this is what we mean by soluble. It goes 100%. This is what we mean by slightly soluble or insoluble. It goes some fraction, 0.01, sometimes very small amounts. Okay, so the extent of this reaction, and in fact, is the opposite direction. The extent of the reaction is that way. That's all you need to know about this.